Poor girl humiliated by elites at gun range. Her record-breaking shots left them speechless. Clara Bennett stepped onto the polished marble entrance of Silvermark Elite Range, clutching an old, battered M1 Garand over one shoulder and wearing a faded denim jacket that had seen better decades. The California sun bounced off the glass walls of the prestigious shooting club, but none of its warmth touched her as sharp, judgmental eyes sliced through her like knives. The receptionist, a sleek man in a perfectly tailored blazer, barely hid his disdain as he blocked her way, his eyes lingering on the scuffed boots and the time-worn rifle that looked more suited for a museum than a world-class range. Behind him, a group of impeccably dressed young elites, sons and daughters of senators, tech billionaires, and military brass, burst into mocking laughter. "Lost sweetheart," one of them sneered, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. Another, twirling the keys of a brand-new sports car around his finger, chuckled, "Maybe she's here to clean the floors." Phones came out, cameras clicked, and within seconds Clara's worn jacket and vintage weapon were live-streamed to their exclusive followers. The captions cruel, "Janitor's Day Out," and "Museum Peace" at Silvermark. Clara said nothing. Her hazel eyes, steady and unflinching, met their scorn head-on. She reached slowly into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small, worn VIP card, a relic from her late father, a decorated Marine sniper whose legacy stretched wider than any of their inherited privileges. The receptionist scoffed until the scanner beeped green, confirming her access. The laughter faltered but didn't stop as Clara walked inside, her every step dragging a storm of mockery behind her. To them, she was a joke in faded denim, an embarrassment to their polished world. But Clara Bennett knew exactly why she was there, and she was about to shatter their illusions, one shot at a time. As Clara Bennett moved deeper into the grand lounge of Silvermark Elite Range, the air around her thickened with disdain. The smell of rich leather and fresh espresso mingled with the electric buzz of phones raised like weapons, capturing her every step. It wasn't enough for these sons and daughters of power to stare. They needed to broadcast her humiliation to the world. Live streams blinked to life as designer-clad teenagers whispered and laughed, the captions popping up like bullets. "Lost mate spotted," "Scrap metal chic," "Is she for real?" Clara's faded jacket and scuffed jeans clashed against the gleaming black marble floors and the rows of custom rifles that sparkled like jewelry under the lights. A boy in a $5,000 tactical vest, Mason Caldwell, son of a defense contractor mogul, leaned back in his leather chair, grinning cruelly as he filmed her. "Maybe she's here to dust the trophies," he said, loud enough to make his friends roar with laughter. On the other side of the room, Victoria Lane, a sharpshooter with corporate sponsorships and a modeling deal, tilted her diamond-studded scope to zoom in on Clara's boots, posting the image instantly with the caption "janitor" or "competitor." Her followers flooded the comments with laughing emojis and insults. Clara kept walking, the battered M1 Garand slung over her shoulder like a battle standard, her hazel eyes locked straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge the sea of smirks and sneers. Even the instructors, figures of supposed authority, joined the silent parade of mockery. One coach, a former Olympian named Coach Reeves, shook his head theatrically and muttered to a colleague, "They're letting in charity cases now." Another, wearing a $20,000 watch, laughed as he added, "She'll be lucky if that relic doesn't fall apart before she even gets a shot off." Clara's steps echoed sharply against the marble, each footfall a quiet act of defiance. Meanwhile, live-stream chats exploded with cruelty. "Is this a Make-A-Wish event? Somebody call security before she embarrasses herself." Comments scrolled so fast, even the moderators couldn't keep up, a digital flood of classist scorn. Near the practice lanes, Chase Donovan, the son of a retired senator, raised a fresh espresso cup and toasted mockingly in Clara's direction. "To participation trophies," he jeered, triggering another wave of laughter. Someone flicked a polished brass shell casing at her boots. Another tossed a crumpled target sheet at her feet, their actions choreographed in a ballet of contempt. Yet Clara's face remained unreadable, her braids swaying slightly with each step, her grip on the M1 guaranteed firm and steady. Behind her silence burned a furnace of pride and pain, fueled by the memory of her father's quiet strength. Every sneer, every smirk, every cruel whisper was another log thrown onto that fire. And while the Silver Mark elite celebrated what they thought would be her ultimate humiliation, Clara Bennett was already preparing to do what none of them could have imagined: turn their derision into disbelief. Mason Caldwell, the undisputed golden boy of Silver Mark elite range, adjusted his designer tactical vest and stepped out from the sea of smirking faces, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of arrogance and amusement as he sized up Clara Bennett. The crowd sensed a show about to unfold and leaned in, their phones raised like a digital coliseum audience ready for blood. Mason, heir to a defense empire worth billions, had always enjoyed crushing anyone who dared disturb the delicate order of privilege at Silvermark. And today, Clara, in her thrift store clothes and antique rifle, was the perfect target. With a mock bow, he addressed the room, his voice amplified by the lounge's acoustics. "Tell you what, sweetheart," he said, smirking as the laughter rippled outward. "Let's make this interesting. One-on-one. You and me." Clara's hazel eyes remained steady, her face unreadable, but the room practically vibrated with anticipation as Mason continued, savoring every second of his stage generosity. "If you somehow miraculously outshoot me," he paused dramatically, drawing chuckles from the crowd, "I'll pack my bags and never set foot in Silvermark again." He let the words hang there like a taunt, then leaned in, his voice dropping to a silky mockery only she could hear. "But when you lose, you walk away. No second chances. No charity." The crowd roared its approval, the sound swelling like a tidal wave crashing against Clara's silent resolve. Someone shouted, "She won't even hit the paper." Another laughed, "Hope she brought a map to find a target." Mason straightened, flashing a grin polished enough for a magazine cover, and raised his custom rifle, a $75,000 precision masterpiece with a barrel so gleaming it looked like it had never seen real battle. Clara's fingers brushed the worn strap of her father's rifle, the wood polished smooth by years of real use, of real sacrifice, her heartbeat steady as a war drum under her calm exterior. She didn't answer immediately, letting the tension stretch taut, the live stream comments spiraling with anticipation, everyone waiting for her to crumble or retreat. Mason chuckled, mistaking her silence for fear, and made a show of inspecting his manicure, as if the outcome was already decided. Clara finally lifted her gaze to meet his, her voice low and clear, slicing through the noise. "Deal." The single word silenced the lounge for half a beat, disbelief flickering across Mason's face before he masked it with a cocky laugh. Phones buzzed wildly, capturing the moment, hashtags already forming. Hashtag Scrap Metal Challenge. Hashtag Silvermark Showdown. Mason waved toward the range, giving a mockingly gallant bow. "Ladies first," he said, but it was clear he thought the ending had already been written. Clara walked past him without a glance, every step measured, every breath anchoring her deeper into the moment. They were all waiting for her to break. But what they didn't know, what Mason had fatally misjudged, was that Clara Bennett didn't walk away from challenges. She turned them into history. The moment Clara Bennett squeezed the trigger and her first shot rang out, the energy inside Silvermark Elite range shifted almost imperceptibly. The digital board flashed a perfect 10, and at first, the crowd brushed it off as beginner's luck. Mason Caldwell's grin faltered, but he quickly masked it with a chuckle, crossing his arms smugly as if waiting for her inevitable collapse. But then came the second shot, another flawless 10. The live stream viewers paused their flood of laughing emojis, their comments stuttering into silence as the board confirmed the impossible. A ripple of unease moved through the lounge. The same kids who had moments ago mocked Clara, now lowering their phones slightly, their jeers caught midway in their throats. Mason's posture stiffened as Clara fired again. Third shot, 10. Then fourth, 10 again. The range's congratulatory chime, playing louder and faster now, cutting through the thick, stunned air. By her fifth shot, the entire room had gone dead silent, the mockery evaporating like smoke under a fierce sun. Even the instructors who had snickered behind their clipboards now stood frozen, their fake smiles wiped clean, watching her in disbelief. Coach Reeves, who had once joked about her rifle falling apart, clenched his jaw, shame creeping up his neck. Chase Donovan, the senator's son who had toasted her downfall with an espresso earlier, dropped his cup, ceramic shattering against the marble floor unnoticed as his eyes locked on the digital board flashing perfect scores. Clara's sixth, seventh, and eighth shots came in rapid, surgical succession, each bullet slicing the air with precision honed not by privilege, but by years of grit, grief, and discipline passed down from a man who had taught her to breathe with her heartbeat and aim with her soul. By the ninth shot, Mason's face had lost all color, the cocky sparkle in his eye replaced with cold fear, his hand trembling slightly on the sleek barrel of his luxury rifle. As Clara's 10th and final shot split the center of the target dead on, overlapping her first bullet, the range erupted, not in laughter or ridicule, but in stunned, reverent silence. The board flashed 100, new facility record, and the system's triumphant melody played overhead like a hymn. General Hawthorne, the stoic director of Silvermark, stepped forward from the shadows, his face grave, his voice cutting through the stunned air, effective immediately. Those who participated in the public humiliation of a guest will be reviewed for suspension pending further investigation. Gasps echoed as several once proud elites paled and shuffled back into the crowd, trying to make themselves invisible. Clara lowered her rifle calmly, her braids swaying slightly with the movement, and finally turned to face them, their arrogance now puddles at her feet. Mason stumbled forward, his earlier bravado shattered, his voice cracking as he managed. "I was wrong. I'm sorry." Others followed, their apologies awkward and broken, unable to meet her gaze. Clara nodded once, a gesture of quiet acknowledgement, her victory radiating not through gloating, but through unshakable dignity. She hadn't just won the match, she had dismantled their false kingdom, bullet by bullet. Dưới đây là phần viết tiếp theo yêu cầu của bạn. Cao trào cảm xúc Clara được tôn vinh, tình cảm này nở, phong cách liền mạch, đúng nhịp điệu câu chuyện trước đó, tiếng Anh Mỹ. As the final notes of the triumphant melody faded, the once hostile lounge of Silvermark Elite Range stood frozen, every head bowed in silent awe at the girl they had ridiculed just minutes earlier. General Hawthorne approached Clara with deliberate steps, his boots echoing off the marble like a drumbeat of reckoning. He stood before her, his stern face softening for the first time that day, and then, with a slow, deliberate gesture, he raised his hand and began to clap. The sound rang out sharp and solitary at first, but soon others followed, the clapping swelling into a roar of applause that filled the cavernous hall, drowning out the last whispers of arrogance that clung to the edges of the room. Clara stood tall, her shoulders squared, her braid brushing her back like a battle banner as the applause washed over her, not with vanity, but with quiet, unwavering pride. On a massive digital leaderboard overhead, her name illuminated in bold letters, Clara Bennett, record holder, 100/100. Mason Caldwell, once the symbol of invincibility at Silvermark, stood awkwardly off to the side, his eyes flickering between shame and something else, a grudging, awestruck respect. Slowly, hesitantly, he stepped forward through the crowd, stopping just short of Clara. For once, his voice carried no mockery, only raw honesty as he said, "I don't deserve a second of your time, but you're everything this place should stand for." His hand trembled slightly as he offered it, not as a challenger, but as someone willing to start over. Clara regarded him for a long moment, the ghost of a smile touching her lips before she accepted his handshake, her grip firm and warm. Around them, the mood shifted, the live stream that once mocked her now blazing with praise, hashtags flooding in, hashtag Clara the Legend, hashtag Silvermark Reborn, hashtag Strength Over Status. Reporters rushed to capture the moment. But Clara kept her world small, focusing only on the honesty in Mason's eyes, the crack in his polished armor that revealed something real. Later, as the crowd slowly thinned and the evening sun cast golden light across the lobby, Mason found her again by the display case where her name now shone above all others. He approached quietly, no swagger left, just a boy humbled by a girl who refused to break. "I meant what I said," he murmured, his voice almost shy, a stark contrast to the cocky tone he once wore like armor. Clara turned to face him, her hazel eyes warm but cautious, the weight of the day still heavy on her shoulders. Mason scratched the back of his neck awkwardly and smiled, a real, unpolished smile. Maybe you'd let me buy you a coffee sometime? No bets, no games, just two people talking." Clara's smile grew, small and real, a quiet flame catching light in her chest. After everything, after every shot fired, every insult endured, maybe, just maybe, there was something worth exploring beyond the battlefield. She nodded, her voice steady and soft. "Coffee's a good place to start." And just like that, amid the shattered walls of old pride and the rising pillars of newfound respect, something unexpected and real began to grow, as the girl with the battered rifle rewrote not just a record, but an entire future. Thank you so much for joining us on this powerful journey today. If Clara's story touched your heart, reminded you of the strength we all carry inside, or simply inspired you to believe in yourself a little more, we invite you to become part of our community. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Cracks of Light for more real, emotional stories that shine through even the darkest moments. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us. Have you ever been underestimated but proved everyone wrong? Your voice matters here. Together, we are the cracks where the light gets in.